Good morning, everybody. My name is Robert Jurcek, and I'm the CEO and founder of OneKloudX. Today, I'm hosting a webinar of how to deliver an optimized sales and operations plan with NetSuite. Now, I'm extremely excited to be here with you today. I see there's a number of you who have joined, which is great. So first and foremost, I'd like to explain a little bit about how the webinar will flow through today. It's broken up into two portions. The first part is a presentation piece that sets the scene of how and what I'll be demonstrating today in the NetSuite solution, coupled with who we are as an organization and who I am as an individual. So let's get started. So OneKloudX is a NetSuite practice that I founded over a year and a half ago now. We've grown relatively quickly in the space of a short period of time. We're based in Melbourne and Sydney predominantly, and we now have close to around about 10 people working under our OneKloudX banner. That includes consultants from NetSuite Functional, NetSuite Technical, solution architects who are all local, also includes a sales and marketing team, and we predominantly are set up in order to deliver on-site services to our clients, whether it's existing NetSuite clients, where we're looking at ways of improving how they operate the solution today. Each one of those clients has a designated and allocated solution architect that effectively works with the clients and is the face of OneKloudX to our clients to ensure that the value and the business outcomes that we agree right up front are delivered in full to you as a business. So we are local. Our directors maintain and manage all our engagement deliverables with our solution architects. We deliver modern implementation methodologies, specifically using Agile, and we do that through sprints, defining a set of user adoption strategies up front, how we're actually going to utilize the data that there is today in solution to define what the outcomes need to be through that sprint planning, that discovery session, the building of those backlogs into a set of showcases that you will end up seeing, coupled with the training element and the user adoption element, and effectively going live with that. So, that's how we use Agile. In addition, we deliver business transformation services as well. So, with my experience with over 20 plus years in the ERP space and the CRM space, I worked with products like Pronto, Dynamics, NetSuite, IBS or IPDOR as they call them these days, and SAP and Oracle. So I've seen a number of enterprise, small business, mid-market solutions in the ERP space across multiple industries. So we're able to also advise on what could be right for you from an independent standpoint as well, if need be. So here's some of our reference clients specifically around the wholesale distribution and manufacturing area. Works Plus has been with us since the beginning. A valued client of ours. They deliver and sell concrete manufacturing, concrete polishing products, rentals as well. Salador, that's a wine distributor, and a few others, as you can see. Now, I'd like to talk through the NetSuite solution. I'm sure some of you have not seen NetSuite before or understand how it works and how the platform can be used to leverage and manage your end-to-end back office and front office business part of the business. So I just thought I'd start with explaining the differences between different ERP solutions on the market today. You've got your on-premise solution, which is holding and housing your ERP product locally in your own premises. So you may have a small little room in your office where your hardware and your network sit, in which ERP Solutions is a part of. It's dependent on your IT team to manage it day in, day out. It's dependent on, the relevant upgrades need to happen from an infrastructure and from a hardware perspective. That includes the upgrades that come as part of that. And in addition, the actual ERP that you've got is and will be and will continue to be a legacy platform, because the programs that you have on this on-premise infrastructure doesn't get upgraded automatically as your ERP solution provider or ERP vendor delivers more and more solutions or more and more new versions as they come out. In addition to that, you also got to maintain the security of that of the infrastructure and the platform as well. So that's your on-premise solution. So you're locked into a version, and you're locked into the hardware side of things and the management of that hardware and software. One major component as well with that is by having a locked-in platform and having a locked-in version, whenever it comes to upgrade, you're always needing to basically re-implement the new version of the solution, which has an impact to the business because you have to test the end-to-end of your solution, coupled with any modifications and customizations that you've built as part of your business, running of that solution. A hosted single tenant solution, on the other hand, is very similar to an on-premise in relation to the actual ERP solution that sits on it. The only difference is it's not on your premises. It's sitting somewhere in the cloud, or it's somewhere in some data center that you're paying a subscription for each month. So they will maintain the patches of the infrastructure. They'll maintain the security of the infrastructure. They'll maintain your ERP as well from a supportability standpoint. But you're not getting the new features and functions that the vendor is building into the new release, because the program set is tied to that platform, tied to that infrastructure. So you have to re-upgrade every single time to get those new features, which is very similar to an on-premise, puts the business through a fair bit of heartache. Just notably from my experience working at an ERP software vendor, the vendor is always going to only support you the current release and the previous release to that. And usually software vendors provide a new release every 2 years. So that means within 4 years, they're no longer supporting your ERP solution, which means that in most cases, these vendors will charge an additional maintenance cost in the event you're on a hosted single tenant environment. So the code is your code, the database is your database, and as a result, if there are any issues with the solution, you have to be able to replicate those issues in order for the vendor or the solution provider to resolve those. Compared to a multi-tenant SaaS product like NetSuite, where it's in the cloud, like the hosted version, the only difference is the architecture has been built in a particular way where everybody, which in the case of NetSuite, 16,000 plus clients, are sharing the programs, are sharing the infrastructure, are sharing pretty much everything to do with the actual platform. So that enables them to provide fixes, provide new features on a periodic basis, being every 6 months, and you're always on the current release. So as they bring more features out, you get those features automatically inherent in your solution. So it's a bit like looking at an apartment building where you own the apartment, you have the keys to the apartment, you have the data which resides in the apartment, you are using facilities of the infrastructure, being the power cables, the plumbing, everything that comes with it. You obviously have those bits that you use, and you're paying for that on a periodic basis. So when it comes to upgrading the pipes, when it comes to upgrading the electrical components and the infrastructure tied to that building, you actually get that as part of your subscription. So you don't have to worry about that. Couple of the security of the building as well. So that's the fundamental difference, and you're not paying for hardware, and the architecture is built in a particular way where you can do customizations, and I'll talk a little bit about that later, and it has no impact to the actual upgrade because of the way it's been built. So I thought I'd explain that, and that's called a multi-tenant, because you're all sharing the tenancy where it's your data and your solution. So the actual NetSuite platform, we'll start off on the far left. So the unified cloud platform, it's built for the cloud, it's multi-tenant like I've described. It's utilizing the Oracle infrastructure and Oracle stack with a common data model. So regardless whether you're running the solution for warehousing, for sales, whether it's CRM, financials, inventory management, professional service management, project management, whatever it be, it's all under the one data set. So there aren't any modules that need to be connected, no modules that need to be integrated. It's all in real time, seamlessly sitting under the one data model. And the other thing is everybody is on the current release. So at the moment we're on 2019.2. That was released a few months ago. A lot of changes came as part of that. Release notes were distributed to every single client. A beta account was provided for every single client 2 to 3 months prior to the actual upgrade, so you can actually play with the new features and get a feel for what those new features could do in your operations. So that was all part of the actual subscription that you pay on an annual basis. The Suite Cloud platform is just the setup, enables you to basically set up custom fields on particular transactions through point and click, enables you to connect other solutions through the APIs that they provide you, and it's all inherent in the actual platform, all inherent in the solution. You also have the ability to program, like I described earlier, for developers who want to go to build their own solutions in the platform as well, which I'll talk about later, and be able to distribute those and sell those as well on the actual Suite App Store if you like to go down that path as well. However, from an ERP, e-commerce, and professional service automation perspective, it's provided in the solution. So it's your ERP, like any other ERP, handles inventory, handles warehousing, it handles planning, whether it's supply and operations planning, which we'll talk about today, which is what this webinar is about. It also handles the financials. If you're a professional service business, it handles that as well. Field services, e-commerce, so there's an e-commerce engine through Suite Commerce Advanced or through Site Builder, which is the basic version that has a seamless connection. Well, actually, it's not even a seamless connection. It's actually it's built into the platform. It's just the UI that looks different to the actual NetSuite solution that you can configure and customize however you want to enable your clients to procure product from you. There's also a human capital management solution, as well as the ability to procure and make your own apps that you can distribute through the App Store, which NetSuite must review, and a credit, which is the build for NetSuite badge they provide. OneWorld is around multi-subsidiary management. So if you're a company that has multi-subsidiaries, whether it's locally or internationally, the ability to handle that with base currencies and reportability from a financial perspective with a consolidation all the way up to a parent company in a base currency of Australian dollars, for example, it handles all that out of the box through the OneWorld solution. So that means the whole master data element of the solution is one common master data that sits across all the actual subsidiaries, which you can turn on and turn off, and therefore provide that seamless visibility of your products and your customers for any subsidiary and consolidate it all the way up to the parent company. That's what the OneWorld solution does. Where NetSuite fits and plays well is in the manufacturing space, the advertising, media and publishing space, where it handles all the campaigns for those particular customers that they manage, the expense management, supply management, profitability of those actual campaigns, services as well, managing your team, your resources, the allocation of those resources, whether it be project resources or whether that be maintenance contract and field service resources that handles that all out of the solution, coupled with the non-for-profit part of the solution as well that handles the grants management, the fundraising, the charity component of it, all tied into the financials component to actually measure how well you're achieving your fundraising, how well you're measuring you're achieving your donations against previous years, against particular constituents, all that within the solution. And then also distribution and retail as well. From an intelligence standpoint, there is the ability to have the artificial intelligence component as well, where it actually analyzes your data to provide insights to your business through the Suite Analytics solution. It's predictive, enables to create workbooks as well, and then through the standards component of every single role of the NetSuite solution, there are your KPIs and dashboards that you can obviously incorporate into the day-to-day, which you will see today in the demonstration. So just a bit of a UI perspective of how every single person in your business could utilize the NetSuite solution. We'll start off with the actual end user and what they see. So they can be utilizing the desktop or the Internet Explorer or Chrome or any other component that they can log into. So there's the actual NetSuite login that they'll get to access the actual solution. Then there's the actual tablet version, which you can download off the Apple Store or the Android relevant Google Store, which is native, and then obviously on the phone as well. So you're able to run it either on your device, so if you're a salesperson, field services, whoever it be, you're able to have it on your device, real time, logged in, or in a desktop or laptop version. And then you've got the business analyst who goes to the next level down of being able to configure specific business rules. So for instance, creating workflows that automates part of the process to update or provide a level of authority or approval for an expense or purchase. You build these workflows to automate the part of the process that you need to make it seamless. Then you also have the ability to build screens, the ability to add fields to particular transaction forms and make those available to particular roles. So, for example, you may want to give the facility to a salesperson to look at purchase orders, but you may not want them to see the price of those purchase orders and the specific information of those purchase orders. You may just want them to see certain elements of the purchase order, as an example. So you can build those particular forms in those particular transactions for those particular roles. So that's the business analyst and how they kind of are able to manage the platform, to configure it, to provide you what you need as you grow. Then you obviously go to the next level down, and that's the developer, and actually providing and coding it, and scripting according parts of the solution. Then you have the administrator who manages the roles and customizations and security, and the audits as well. So every single transaction, every single record in NetSuite has an audit log tied to it. So you're able to report on those to make sure that you've got your internal controls all managed and the governance standpoint managed and risk and compliance managed from a C-level perspective as well. And then from a partner standpoint, like us, we build solutions and we build applications that we're able to therefore have them certified by NetSuite, which we call Built for NetSuite certified, and then have them applied to the suiteapp.com store available for customers to utilize. So now, the purpose of this webinar and why I wanted to bring this webinar to you guys today was to show you how NetSuite could connect your sales operations team and agree on a particular plan of how you can have better visibility of your demand and your supply through to your financials to make better decisions. So in my history of working in businesses from the likes of Paperlinks and Amcor some years ago, from helping the intake of orders from paper machine standpoints, from paper merchants, and managing that whole process through to the actual operations and the delivery element and through to the financials. Most of the challenges I've seen is the disconnect between the sales and the disconnect between the operations. Now, that operations can be your manufacturing operations, it can be your warehouse operations, it can be your procurement operations, it can be your financial operations. Pretty much sales disconnected from everyone else. Because a lot of the time, the sales guys are out there to push and close opportunities to meet their forecast and revenue targets. And half the time, the operations team, unless they're informed, have no idea as to what's being sold in order to better plan for the stock to be there at the right time to fulfill those particular sales. So that's one challenge. Another challenge is, the procurement team, they're out there downloading all this information from the ERP of all sales that were done for a particular location, particular customer, and then from that, they're manually calculating as to what they need to procure, incorporating lead times and the rest, and stock on hand in order to meet those expected sales that obviously are incorporated as part of sales history. They have to incorporate seasonality, they have to incorporate all these bits and pieces of their slow-moving products, whether they fall under a reorder point structure. A lot of those procurement teams will do that manually. The other component is, and challenge out there, is the financial outcomes are rarely embedded into the sales and operations plan or the sales and operations remit. Now, it's usually left to the finance team to do all the things that come to money. One is chasing debtors. One is trying to work out ways of extending creditors' days. Another way is how to improve working capital and overheads. And if you actually had the other parts of the business work with the finance team to reduce those elements and improve those levers of cash in and cash out, the value and the profitability of the business can improve overnight. So if you've got your sales team out there chasing invoice payments when they're talking to customers directly and giving them that information to do that, that helps the overall business. If the sales team are able to articulate as to what they're going to sell from a product standpoint to the purchasing team, then the purchasing team are able to plan their procurement process a lot better. If the procurement team were able to communicate to the finance team, this is what our expected purchasing plan looks like for our suppliers, then you're able to therefore build a plan as to how do we kind of get better terms from our suppliers, because we have more leverage and better negotiation power to negotiate better prices. So these are some of the challenges that businesses in the manufacturing and wholesale distribution space have around the sales and operation area, and the level of disconnect between each department. And I'll love to show you how NetSuite can bring some of that connection and some of that communication and visibility across each and every area to improve the bottom line of your business from a financial standpoint. So let's get into NetSuite. So here I am logged in as Will Clark as a sales representative. I'm starting off as a salesperson to show you a day in the life of a salesperson using NetSuite. So this is the CRM element of the NetSuite solution, which is all under the one umbrella. There are no modules. It's all part of the base product. So NetSuite, whilst you log in, has a global search at the top, so you're able to search anything up here, and then we'll find every single relevant transaction or record tied to that particular search. So in this case, I've just put in black, and it's giving me customer record, contact record, opportunity record, everything else tied to anything that has black in it. And I'm only able to search for things that I have access to searching to. So from a roles and responsibilities standpoint, it only shows me what I only have available to see. Then from that, I also have Dropdown, which is what my access is. So I can search for activities, I can create my own events, tasks, phone calls. I can look at my own calendar that's connected into Outlook and Google. I can create my own leads, add contacts to those leads, look at what lead source these leads were driven from, what particular campaign they came from, opportunities, creating those customers. This is just basically the level of transactions and reports that that this particular sales rep is able to see that comes out of the box with NetSuite that we validate with you during implementation. Each one of the actual boxes is called a portlet, and you can basically, drag and drop any of these from any part of the screen to configure it and set it up however you want to see it. So I can drag that up to the top and so on and so forth, or I can even bring other parts of the actual information into my dashboard as I need to be. So if I want to add in a calendar, I can add a calendar. I can look at the calendar based on a particular month, which is connected to either Gmail or to Outlook. I can see that I've got a particular webinar on this particular date of the 31st, or I can remove it if I need be. Also have the ability to change all my dashboard views as well, based on a particular date range. So at the moment, I'm looking at it from a this month perspective. So these are my KPIs that I've got in my dashboard. So I can see how many new leads were generated. I can see the sales that were generated. So obviously I haven't done too well at the moment in this current period, being this month, being December. However, last month the business invoiced $60,000 of sales that I brought to the table. And how many new opportunities I've got, open opportunities, and so on and so forth. But the great thing I can do is I can actually drill down into this information as well. So one area of connecting finance with sales is receivables. So I can click onto the current period and have a look at, for all my current customers, what outstanding invoices are there out there, and be able to look at it from an aging perspective. The aging that's been set up for me is I've got 3 bands of 30 days each, looking at it based on a due date perspective. So the current balances for each and every customer that I'm managing, that I'm the sales rep for, the opening balances being 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, anything that's greater than 90 days, I'm able to see in one particular view. In addition, I have the facility to be able to to click through into the relevant transactions for these particular debtors. So let's look at Black Dragon Corp, where there is $50,000 that are greater than 60 days aging. So now that I click into it, I can see that it pertains to one particular invoice, being invoice number 155, and it's 47 days old, and I want to actually see that invoice because at the moment I am at Black Dragon Corp. I can see all correspondence once I go in there as to what communications have been had on this particular invoice, and if there are any particular disputes that are happening on that invoice as well as the products that were sold as part of it, and obviously it was sold by me, being Will Clark. So let's have a look at the communications tab, and I can see that there was a communication done on the 3rd of the 12th where I've chased them up, and it was sent as an email. However, I'm also wanting to just kind of go out there and email them again and follow up and see what's going on with this. So that's the invoice record. Quickly, I can just jump in and see what else is going on with this particular customer. So if I click into the actual customer Black Dragon Corp, it takes me to the customer record, and I can see every bit of information pertaining to this particular customer. All messages, all communications, any files that are there, any notes, any financial information. I can look at their credit hold, so if any orders are placed above that particular credit limit, then those orders will go on hold. I can see their consolidated outstanding balances, overdue, also the age area here, and at the same time I can hide any of these fields pertaining to a particular role. So if you want to hide and not show any of these fields or bring new fields in, you're able to do that based on that role as I described. You can look at marketing information, so what do they subscribe to, what their address details are, whether they're shipping addresses or billing addresses, what their preferences are, how do they like to receive their transactions, system information, so for instance, what access the customer can have as well. So NetSuite provides a facility for customers to log into their own little slice of NetSuite to look at their own orders and place their own orders, download any invoices, look at transactions as to where they are in the actual delivery process. So they have their own little slice of NetSuite, so they don't ring your customer service team to find out where things are at, or to be able to download an invoice, or be able to even make a payment. And this relates to customer information. I can look at customer scorecard over here, how well a customer is performing. So 9 orders, number of invoices, year to date, what open sales orders there are, what the 12-month sales has been, what the 12-month returns are, and what items have been returned. So at the moment there's been like a Dell LED monitor that's been returned. And then obviously looking at the open invoices and credits as well, which is kind of like that 360 view of the client. However, there is also a dashboard for a particular customer you can go in as well. So in addition to having a dashboard for the user, there's also a dashboard for a customer, as well as a supplier as well. And if you run projects, there's also a project dashboard as well that gives you visibility of that particular record. So dashboard for this customer shows the KPIs for that customer. So what sales have been done by me for this customer, what my forecast is for that customer in terms of sales, balances, and you can add more if you like to as well. You can add your custom ones that you can create, or you can add your standard KPIs as well. I can look at the opportunities that are there at the moment. So at the moment, there's an opportunity expecting to close on the 31st of December. I can click into that opportunity and see what's going on with it, plus any activities that have been done on that opportunity. So when I click into that opportunity, I can see the products I'm expecting to sell. So I'm selling an iPad 9.7 inch 128 gig. I can see there's 5 available on the floor, and there's a quantity of 2. And the shipping date is expected for the 23rd of February is when they're looking at actually buying it. But I have a close date of the 31st of December because I'm giving them a special rate on that particular product, being the iPad, and the actual forecast type is upside, meaning that they're actually considering that in the forecast that you can actually also have your procurement team buy a product on as well. And I see the status is being issued, being the estimate has been issued. So if I go back to the actual dashboard, right to the start, so I've just taken you through how you can easily drill down on some KPIs, how I can easily look at what particular reminders there are. So at the moment there's 2 reminders to close this month, there's a call I got to do, and there's an estimate I've got to print, a couple of other less urgent items. Also, what I've done is I've created an aging report to be housed in my dashboard, so I can see, because aging is very important for our particular wholesale distribution manufacturing company, and it's important that our salespeople are always trying to reduce any aged stock before it actually hits the bottom line. So I can see for these particular products, which are sorted by total quantity at the moment, this is the actual quantity that's currently sitting in the warehouse for Sydney. I can also drill into any other product as well if I want to look at product specifically, but at the moment it's showing me a particular number, which is I think I set up as a result size of 10. So I'm seeing the top 10 quantities of product based on their age and dollar value as well. So there's 27 that's between 30 and 60 days old of this particular product. Compared to here, there's others that are, obviously there's a bit more of MacBook Pros out there that are in the 30-60 day age. So I'm going to be trying to flog some of these off before they, get any older. The other thing is I could also see my opportunities as well. And like I said, this is all customizable and configurable for a particular user. You can also lock in a dashboard, so your particular role can't change the elements of that dashboard as well if you are pretty determined and set in how you want your people to work. So in this case, there's a couple of opportunities here for a particular product, iPad Pro 9.7 inch. I'm going to be focusing on this particular product because everything else pertaining to this demonstration is around demand and supply plan and connecting it for this particular product. So in this case, I'm looking at opportunities that I have as Will Clark for that product, and I've got two particular opportunities that are highlighted through conditional formatting that are closing in December for a quantity of total of 7 for two different customers. One's expecting to be 90% to close, the other one's 20%. So I need to push wide, to close this particular one out, because obviously 91 should happen, but I'm worried about this other one. And this has a direct impact on the actual demand plan. Now I've set up a demand plan view over here for that same product. For that location, I can also change it. I can also add in a customer as well, and have a demand plan by a customer if need be. The reason why these two particular months are in red is because the demand planning fence that we have in our organization that's set up is I am not allowed as a salesperson to change the plan for 2 months, because that's what procurement and that's what our budgets and forecasts are planned off for our business. So you can see here I've got a quantity of 7 I have to close in December, but for this product I have to actually close and sell 9. So which would derive a projected sales of $6,300. So I need to somehow find a way of potentially bringing some of these orders up, opportunities up from the other months, and close them in December in order to meet that quantity of 9, coupled with the the January number as well, which is 10. So if I look at January, I've actually got a quantity of 8 to close. So I need to work out what we do there compared to February, which is 15. Over here, I've got February 11. So maybe I can somehow get Builders Corp to buy some more product. So I'm easily able to jump into any of these and change those particular demand plan for those particular products if need be as well. So then, that's constantly changing. So when we go to our sales and operations meeting, I'm actually updating my demand plan as a salesperson for a product, for a group of customers before actually going to the meeting. So then the end of operations team, being the purchasing team, the warehousing team, the finance team, are all across as to what we're going to sell and the margins we're going to make, hopefully as part of that, in order to meet that plan. So that's a little bit about the salesperson and how they're connected to the actual overall sales and operations plan, by actually chasing down debtors, by looking at how to improve age stock, by managing their opportunities that therefore connect into the demand plan, as well as any activities they need to do in their day-to-day to meet those deliverables. So in saying that, now I'm actually going to jump into an inventory manager, because now I'm actually going to show you how that inventory manager is going to be managing the actual demand and supply plan based on the inputs they've received from Will, being the sales rep. So as you can see, it's a different look and feel of NetSuite for this particular inventory planner or inventory manager called Nixing. They've got different reminders, they've got different tiles in terms of different reports, they've got a different view of the whole dashboard. How many quantities have been sold. They've got different indicators, KPIs. They care about inventory. They care about value of customer returns, what late purchase orders are out there, what open purchase orders are out there, what the value of shipping is, and other bits and pieces. I can look at their total inventory. You can look at the inventory value this week, last week, this month, last month, and the rest. So yeah, just a different view altogether. But in this particular example, I'm just going to be demonstrating how Nick, in this case, is going to be managing the demand and supply plan. So the demand plan is, as you saw, it's about managing the demand. Is a sales rep actually communicating to the wider community, being in the business, of what they're expecting to sell for a particular product at a particular location. So from that, the actual demand planner, or the inventory manager in this case, will generate that demand plan that then the salesperson is able to then manage and update based on what they feel they're going to do. So the way NetSuite handles the creation of a demand plan is there are projection methods out there that actually projects the expected sales using different mathematical calculations or sales forecast. The ones that NetSuite has out of the box is a linear regression, moving average, seasonal average, and sales forecast. So then it uses those projection methods to based on particular historical analysis of duration to drive a projected duration period in the future. So let's look at, for this particular product being the iPad Pro 9.7 inch 128 gig, I can see that the expected demand for this using linear regression is a quantity of 9 in January, all the way through slight increase of one amount or one piece to the following December 2020, which would increase to a total quantity of 20. All right, so that's how the demand plan was generated. And then obviously you saw earlier through the sales rep, they go in there and manage that demand plan and massage it. And then effectively you're using this plan once it's locked in based on the demand planning fence, which in this case was 2 months. They lock that in to then plan and execute on those purchases required to meet those product demands. So I go back to the dashboard by hitting the home button. I will jump in for that same product, being the iPad Pro 9.7 inch 128 gig. I will jump into the actual supply plan. I've already executed the supply plan in this example for a matter, considering this webinar is only for an hour. I've executed the supply plan, and based on that linear regression demand plan coupled with the input from the sales team, the system has calculated the required purchases of these quantities to be made by these particular dates in order to receive them by this particular delivery date in order to meet those purchases from the warehouse to the customer. Now you're probably thinking to yourself, now how do I trust these quantities? How do I know that they're correct? There is a feature in NetSuite called Gross Requirements Inquiry that actually takes you into the derivation of how each and every purchase request or purchase order has been derived. Now, these purchase orders can be automatic, or you can actually have that review process like we are in this example to be able to review that and then manually place them or place them through the order items facility that NetSuite provides that I'll show you as well a little later. So at the moment, the current inventory is a quantity of 18. And then there was basically a quantity of 2 that was received on this particular order, which made it 20. And then there was a sales order that was entered for this particular amount that I can drill into as well for 15. That reduced the actual quantity on hand to 5. From that, there is a need to buy a quantity of 4 on this particular date of the on the 2nd of December. We should have placed it for in order to meet the 1st of January, because there is an actual demand plan or demand order from the sales team that is saying that they are going to sell a quantity of 9. That will bring the stock value to 0, which means that we will then need to order another 10 in order to meet the demand for the next month's worth of demand for this particular product, and so on and so forth. So planned purchase order, 11 comes in from the demand, then you're buying more of 12, and the demand comes in for 12 and goes to 0, and that's how it effectively calculates the required amount. So I go back to the dashboard. I'm actually happy with that, and now I'm actually going to be placing those particular orders for that particular iPad Pro 9.7 inch 128 gig. See, if I go into my reminder, items to order, I'm able to see all the actual items that I need to place. So over here, I'm looking at the order start date of the 6th of the 12th in order to meet the order. So I'm looking at between the 6th of the 12th to the 5th of Jan. Between that time fence, what do I need to order? So time phased is based on a demand and supply plan, which you just saw. However, you also have the ability to have reorder points on product as well. So if the quantity falls below, if the quantity of inventory falls below that particular value for that particular location or warehouse, then it will automatically suggest you to buy more product, like in this case being a quantity of 5. You also have a preferred stock level as well that you can incorporate, coupled with safety stock if you want to manage a safety stock quantity for that location as well. But in this case, we'll go back to that iPad 9.7 inch and it's a quantity of 10 that we'll need to procure in order to meet that demand. So all you do is click, submit, and it'll create those orders. Now, if those orders are for the same supplier, then it will actually create one purchase order with multiple line items in that purchase order based on the delivery dates that you need to meet. So it does consolidate it as well. So that's a little bit about how the planner or the inventory manager or planner manages the demand and manages the supply based on that agreed demand to procure the stock, to get it into the store in time for those particular sales. The same happens on the manufacturing side as well, so that the supply plan will execute based on the finished product. It will explode those bill of materials on that particular finished product. So what bill of materials do you need to have in stock in order to make that product, incorporating the lead time of both the supplier of what you're buying coupled with the manufacturing lead time that you need to make the actual finished product to supply that on the actual sales order for that demand. So that's how the manufacturing supply and demand plan works, is it explodes those bill of materials and procures those bill of materials, and then from that basically ensures that product is in the warehouse at the right time. So that's how it works from a inventory planning perspective. Now, the warehouse side is just as important, right? Because they need visibility to ensure that they have enough space in the warehouse, they have the right crew and the right team in order to manage the incoming and outgoing of orders in the warehouse. So we've just created a bit of a different view for these guys. As you can see, there is a different dashboard. They care about what orders are being shipped out, what orders need to be picked, packed, and shipped, what needs to be received, what order returns are coming in that's been authorized to come back from the client for any issues that they have, and then KPI specific to them, like in the same way you saw in the sales side. They're able to drill down on every one of these individual components or add more if need be. But in this case, we want to be the warehouse person wants to be able to see, okay, based on those demand and supply plans, what stock is expected to come into my warehouse at a particular time. So I can see from this particular portlet that I've set up what actual purchase orders are planning to come in and what sales orders are effectively planning to take out that stock on a periodic basis, being the current month, the 30, 60 days, the 60 to 90, 90, 120, and greater than 120. So since we've only planned the next 60 days at the moment, we can see that there is a 1,300 quantity coming these particular products based on the demand and supply plan and the reorder points that are there as well. So that gives you a bit of management as to how a warehouse person can use the data in order to manage the team and manage their warehouse. Now, to jump into from a finance person, I'm going to jump into a different role. And in this case, I'm going to jump into the CFO role, which the CFO is able to have their own little slice of NetSuite as well. And it's a totally different dashboard again. And all they care about is, what's in the bank, what's the expected, what are the expenses, how they compare to last month, what their overheads are, what their cash balances look like, and so on and so forth. So in this case, incorporating the demand and supply plan, what the finance team is interested in looking at is what impacts does that have on the cash flow of the business. So based on those particular demand, and based on the particular demand of those particular products for those particular customers for those particular months, what does that do in terms of the revenue coming through the door for the company? And based on purchases, on the other hand, what purchases are needing to be made, and then what impacts does that have on the cash from a projection standpoint? So you can see here, and this is done on a weekly basis at the moment, can be done by monthly or quarterly. You can see what the AR due that's coming in for each and every period, what the actual amount of that is in terms of being received, what's being owed in terms of the AP, and what the net due is and the net cash position as well. So you can see how now that whole component from the salesperson of the demand plan and what's expected to be sold and how that impacts the cash element, including them chasing the cash for you as well, coupled with the effects that has on the supply plan, meaning that what needs to be purchased to meet that demand, and what impacts that have on the overall accounts payable side of things, and what you could do as well in terms of maximizing your payment days to your supplier as well to help in that negotiation. So that's a little bit about NetSuite and showing you about how we can connect the whole end-to-end of NetSuite with your sales and operations team. So I'll just jump back to the actual presentation for a sec, because I just want to high level quickly walk you through exactly what we've just spoken about from a visual, from a slide perspective. So record to report, which is all your financials, everything links into your financials, from your item management you're designing to build, being your product development lifecycle element, your planning and inventory management element, as you saw, so the planning and buying and managing inventory, how that impacts the financials, procure to pay, lead to cash, so managing your opportunities, managing your sales orders, managing the billing, any manufacturing and planning to produce, how that impacts the financials, which we call as a record to report. So as part of this webinar, and just in appreciation of having everyone attend today, we are offering a 4-hour free business software consultation and documentation for you guys. So as part of it, we're going to evaluate your current state architecture, and I will come out and do this personally for you guys based on my experience that I've had at over 100 businesses in my career. So it's about understanding how you guys are utilizing your processes today in your business, and how your teams are running those processes to manage your business and the overall outcomes they're having on your customers. So we will therefore look at that current state, the technology you're using to achieve those processes, whether it's order to cash, procure to pay, record to report, and the like. And then from that, say, okay, based on what you do, based on what technology is out there on the market, based on what you're trying to achieve in terms of your business strategy and the outcomes you want to get to, what do we need in order to meet that? And what does the architecture look like to meet that, coupled with a priority setting of those elements? So an example is if you're managing certain elements of your process through paper, and it's paper shifting, and therefore, like example, warehousing that's done off pick slips as paper pick slips, we review, okay, what impact does that have on your overall business? How many pick errors are you guys running? What does those pick errors mean in terms of your client satisfaction? And then from that, how do we kind of look at systems and capabilities to be able to resolve those issues? So we basically prioritize those and look at what that would look like for you as a future state architecture, and we'll document all this for you guys as well to kind of know exactly if you did move from where you are today to where you need to be tomorrow, what does that look like as well. So I hope that this has resonated with you. I hope you've enjoyed this webinar, and I hope that I hear from you soon. Please hit me up on LinkedIn or email, or give me a call. My details are here, and I look forward to chatting with you quite soon. Thank you, and enjoy the rest of